Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Original vs. Remake on Christian Hanna Horror. Today we are looking at Maniac vs. Maniac. So let's dive right into the original Maniac, the Joe Spinell version of this incredibly brutal, mentally disturbing slasher film. Definitely disturbed me on my first viewing. So this movie is about this guy who is, in fact, a serial killer. And you really get to see what this serial killer's life is like. That was so interesting about this movie. Do I think Maniac is a slasher? Yes, 100% absolutely. But it has this whole other dimension to it that is not just about a body count. You get behind the killer's point of identity and you get to really see what his life is like, his thought process, what he does. And a lot of times pulling back the curtain on a movie can make things not so scary. Not the case with the original Maniac. This movie absolutely disturbed me. With one of the scenes from the movie being where Tom Savini has the girl in the car and then Joe Spinell's character launches on top of the vehicle and blasts Tom Savini's head off. The delivery of that scene was absolutely terrifying. It disturbed me. It freaked me out. I still have trouble watching this 1980s Maniac. Maniac is one of my favorite slasher movies in the world. Even though I do think there's a whole nother element to this film, at its core, it's still a slasher movie. There's a lot of slashing going on. This movie truly is one of a kind in its era and its time. Until this day, the original 1980s Maniac is an absolute horror masterpiece in my opinion. This movie is fantastic, and watching it absolutely blew me away the first time I did so. So I have a high adoration for this movie of Maniac. The interesting thing was, this is my original. I saw this movie before the original Maniac. So for me, strangely enough, I think of the movies opposite. The Joe Spinell version is my remake, and this is the original because that's the order I saw them in. This movie absolutely has no right to be as good as it was. When we live in a world where slasher movies were getting remade at an alarming rate, Maniac was no exception. And a lot of movies were just subpar, these remakes, so you really weren't expecting much. This movie is literally a cut above the rest, and pun intended. Elijah Wood's performance in this absolutely is fantastic. The guy is an actor. Yes, I know he's Mr. Lord of the Rings, I know he's done some great things, but this movie shows a performance from an actor to the 10th degree. Elijah Wood's performance is different. This movie is not necessarily just a remake like the Gus Van Sant Psycho. They don't just take the exact elements, much less the same lines, and repeat them. They do this different element in a version that really fit the look, the sound, and the acting ability of Elijah Wood, and what a person of his size and stature would really be like if he was, in fact, a maniac. So these two movies are very different, but I get the same guttural, uncomfortable, uneasy feeling in this 2012 remake. It is by far one of the best horror remakes I think I've ever seen, and I think that's saying a lot. So when picking one of these, it was extremely tough, and quite honestly, the toughest choice I've ever had to make when picking an original versus remake. Some of them were no questions, some of them were easy, but this was in fact the hardest one I've ever done. So which one did I pick? Well, my pick is the original Maniac, and I'm gonna tell you the only reason I picked the original Maniac. The 2012 version has this first-person style to it that is absolutely intriguing, incredible, and interesting. But the original Maniac has that voyeurism that makes me just a notch more creeped out than the first-person style. So needless to say, both of these movies are absolutely fantastic in my opinion, and definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen either one of them. But the voyeurism and the creepiness just brings it a notch over for me to give the original the edge. But that is not to say that Elijah Wood's 2012 remake is not incredible. I do think that this movie has the nastiest kill between the two. The head scalping in the bed scene in this movie is by far, in my opinion, the greatest scene between the two movies. So even though the original came out on top for me, I think that both films are undeniably fantastic horror films. So which one do you prefer, the original Maniac or the 2012 remake? I'm very interested to know in the comments section below, but at the end of the day, just know these are two incredibly good movies. Thank you guys for watching this video. This is Christian Hanna Horror, and we'll see you guys next time.